Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me and Jill Attree today here on the sofa. Jill is an advanced grief specialist.
Advanced grief recovery specialist.
Recovery specialist. It's the recovery that we are actually talking about today, because today is Friday. That is, tell us, Jill.
It's the start of the Children's Grief Awareness Week.
Yeah.
So I think it's just really important to talk about grief with children and the different types of grief that children go through.
Yeah, so obviously we've talked about this before we started filming today, and my association with grief when I'm thinking about children is obviously the loss of a family member or the loss of a friend, someone related to the family, but actually you've explained to me that it's so much more than that.
So much more than that. So
Yeah.
everybody seems to think that grief is just about death and bereavement, and obviously that's a really big part of it, but that's not all it is. So for children, it could be divorce, if their parents are divorced, moving house, they become very attached to where they live and they don't really want to leave that safe place, changing schools, even changing different classrooms within the school, the loss of a pet. There are so many things for children that evoke feelings of grief, and quite often we don't really even acknowledge them.
Yeah, and I think as with a lot of the things that we've talked about in our videos before, I've talked to other people about, there are so many things that can happen in your childhood that will affect you throughout the rest of your life if they're not dealt with at the time. And that's something that obviously it's your job, isn't it? It's talking with children about grief and about how to work through these situations, but also helping adults to discuss these things with children.
Yeah, and it's about learning the right and the wrong things to say to our children, and we would all love to wrap our children up in a great big shield and protect them from all the awful things that go on around them on a daily basis, but we can't do that. So I think the greatest gift that we can give our children is to be open and honest with them, and to let them know that what they're feeling is completely normal. It's a normal reaction to the grief, and it's so important that we get it right at this stage.
So let's talk about how we do talk to our children, and how we, because I do show emotion in front of my children, and if I'm hurting or if I'm upset about something, I think it's a good thing to let my children show that I'm not scared of showing that emotion.
Absolutely.
I don't have to go into a room and close the door to cry. But I also think it's important for them to see that I will work that through as well, and I will try and resolve the problem. And we do talk about emotional things. I'm somebody who doesn't hide physical, mental, emotional health issues.
And I think that's so important with children. And I think as adults we need to lead by example, and we need to help them to understand that it is perfectly okay to cry, that they don't have to hide their feelings. As soon as we say to a child, don't cry, we're instantly saying to them, you can't have that feeling, block that emotion, you don't need that. And that's what starts all their unresolved layers of grief, because we're just stopping them from feeling everything. And it's like when we may say to a child, oh, come on now, mummy's on her own, be strong, you're the man of the house now. So again, instantly you're saying to that child, don't cry, I've got to be strong, I've got to suppress that feeling now, I've got to be there for my mum, I can't let her see me upset because it will make her upset. And these are all things that are leading to the unresolved layers of grief for a child, because we're telling them that they can't have those feelings, whereas actually crying is a natural healing process. And a child needs to feel sad when their heart is broken, and who are we to say you can't feel sad?
And I do think crying is so often seen as a sign of weakness, and it's not.
And you've got to take actions to do that. So, if I said to you, Anna, if you're out on a bike ride with your boys and one of them's got a puncture, so you wouldn't just all sit there at the side of the road waiting for a divine intervention to come along and re-inflate that tyre. You would either try to do it yourself, or you would go and get help to do it. You'd take an action, and that's what the grief recovery is all about. It's about taking actions to move forward to recover from the grief.
And also just not not just trying to get over something as well, because I really struggled.
You will never get over it. You know, a child is never going to get over the fact that maybe their grandfather has died. They're never going to forget the grandfather. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people struggle with. Well, you know, I don't want to forget him, but you're not going to forget him. It's about talking about all those unresolved feelings of grief that you've got about the grandfather, the things you wish you'd done differently, better or more, you know, the hopes and dreams of what you were going to do with grandfather, that he's no longer here and that can't happen.
And that well-known phrase, time is a healer.
Oh God.
You know, and you think time is not really a healer.
No.
Time just puts, you know, distance between you and the event. But the event can still be as real and can still trigger, you know,
it can
trauma and stress, and
years down the line.
Upset really can have long-lasting effects.
Absolutely, and I think one of the things that we need to look out for with our children are the behaviours that they display. So, you know, often sleeping patterns may alter, eating patterns may change, they can become very anxious, they may not want to leave you, they become very clingy, they may revert back to being a baby or a toddler again, and all of that.
Bedwetting.
Absolutely. Bedwetting, self-harming. In older children, it may lead on to drinking or to drugs. And it's about, if we don't understand how to help our children now with their unresolved grief, the mental health issues that can cause later in life until it's being dealt with. It's so key that we get there now, and that's why with the Helping Children with Loss programme, we can help adults and parents to understand the steps they can take to help their children, and I think that's one of the biggest gifts that you can give them, really.
This is the book that you've brought with you, When Children Grieve, which Jill didn't actually write this book. No. But this is the programme that she follows, and you really champion this programme, don't you?
Yeah, I do, because there's a beginning and an end. So, you know, you work through it very slowly, and you can guide your children, and you can learn the right things to say. You become aware of the wrong things that you've said in the past, and you might think, oh God, did I really say that? But that's okay, let that be okay. You've said that, but you will now know what you should do and what you shouldn't do, and you can just guide adults through. There's so many programs out there for professionals, but there's very, very little for parents and carers to be able to get access to. And it's so important,
because I do think as a parent, you know, it is your job to try, you know, we're all trying to get this right, and there is no parent that does get it right. And believe me, I beat myself up every day about getting it wrong.
Snap.
And I think I've seen so many, just as you went through some of the physical signs that a child might display that should actually trigger in you as a parent, hang on, something's not quite right here. I have actually seen a lot of those, especially post-divorce, you know, and obviously moving house, which we've done time and time again. And I've seen a lot of those things. You know, I've seen issues at night time, I've seen hot sweats, you know,
physical symptoms,
the boys getting very hot. I've seen the baby voice, you know, even in Ozzy, it will go, you know, he'll revert back, regress to being a toddler and into that safety zone. It's so much more common than you think, and like you said, it doesn't take the death of somebody close to that child to perhaps trigger these things. And it's just, these are things that as parents we need to be aware of, because when you see these things with your children, it doesn't immediately mean that you need to panic that there is a major problem that can't be dealt with, but there is help out there, and there are things like this program. Jill's certainly recommending reading this book if you were a parent who perhaps has been through the loss of another parent, the loss of a grandparent, or the loss of a pet, house move, divorce. Then this is a brilliant book to read, because it's our job as parents to try and help our kids through these situations as best as we can, because that's setting them up for a much easier life as an adult if they've worked through emotional issues as a child. So we've talked about the things that you shouldn't say. Obviously, be strong, man up, don't cry, come on and have a cookie.
It'll be better.
This will all be fine tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day. Things like that basically just brush off the situation. What we do want children to do is open up about their emotions and talk talking, as with absolutely everything, is key. So if you're a child who's watching this video and it's triggering a bit of emotion with you, then I would ask you to try and find an adult who you feel very, very safe with, and to perhaps talk about what might be making you feel emotional, what might be making you feel sad or hot or unable to sleep or anxious at school,
giving you
or
tummy
home.
ache. Yeah, all those things. And you know, if you're at school and you've got a pastoral care worker, then go to your pastoral care worker, or somebody that you feel safe with. It, you know, it could be the dinner lady at school, you know, somebody that you feel safe with, that you know that you can talk to and who will listen to you. It's all about, in grief recovery, we talk a lot about being a heart with ears, and it's just giving a child the time to talk without judging them, without trying to overanalyze it, without criticizing them and saying, oh, that's so silly, why, you know, why would that bother you? To a child, it's huge. It's so important to them, and they just need to be listened to. They just want somebody to let them say what it is that's worrying them. And I think another good way to help them is to be an example and to lead by example, and to show that you can discuss your own feelings and how things make you feel. So again, that will make them feel safe to be able to share with you or another adult.
Yeah, so for the adults that are watching this, you know, talk about your feelings. Maybe that's a great way to help your child open up with you, you know, moving on from the things that we shouldn't say onto the things that we should say.
Absolutely.
Open questions, you know, how are you feeling today? You know, not are you feeling sad or happy, which gets you a one-word answer, but how are you feeling today?
Or to say to them, tell me what's going on today, Anna, for you, so that they will come back with a response, because you've actually given them permission to tell me what's going on, and it gives them permission to talk. It's like when you say to your children, what have you done at school today? They'll say, I can't remember nothing. And if you say to them, absolutely. And if you say to them, oh, what's wrong? They'll say, nothing. So if you say, tell me what's happening for you today, you're giving them permission to tell you what's happening with them today. And that's a really open question that you will get a response.
Or again, to lead with your own emotions and a bit about your day, and then open it up to them so that they have got that open, you know, that moment to talk. So if you're an adult watching this, then hopefully that's been a little bit helpful for you to identify the needs of your children on an emotional level. But if there are adults watching this that want to obviously find out a little bit more, or you're thinking that maybe your child's struggling with some of these issues Jill's talked about, where do we go for help?
Okay, so I would just say, first of all, if your child has got a lot of physical symptoms that you're worried about, then obviously get them checked out by a doctor first, just to make sure there's nothing else going on. But if you think that they're really struggling to cope with their grief, you can go onto the Grief Recovery UK website. There's a lot of really useful information on there, all about Christmas, Father's Day, Mother's Day, all those things that may evoke emotions at any time during the year. You can have a look through there. You can contact me direct, and I can have a chat with you and talk you through and see what we can do to support you for a difficult time. And also, if you're interested in taking part in one of the programs that I run, well then absolutely, you know, you will then have those tools for life of how to help your child.
And definitely, and if you're not down in Dorset where Jill is, I think you can have remote.
I can work one-to-one remotely with adults, in supporting them and how they can support their children as well. So it can be anywhere in the world, anywhere in the country.
But again, do look for somebody to talk to, and if you need help, and we all need support with parenting, whether it be from reading books or finding stuff online on helpful websites, or finding a counsellor near you. I'm definitely, you know, in favour of finding somebody who's right for a child to talk to. A child needs to feel safe, and even if you feel like they've got no problems whatsoever, you know, everybody needs to talk through stuff
at some point in time.
Like I said, there's no perfect parent, so please do open those lines of communication. It's key to any child's happiness and well-being, really.
Yeah, particularly for their future, really, because if they don't look at the unresolved issues, they're never going to go away until they've taken action to do something about it.
Thank you so much, Jill. Let's tackle that grief, and I'm sure we'll be having Jill back because there's some other things that we're going to cover.
Don't get me started.
So, but thank you so much for watching. Please do get in touch, leave us a comment below this video, and yeah, like Jill said, do get in touch with Jill if you want to discuss any of these topics a little bit further. Make sure you're subscribed, and thanks for watching. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.